So this is our third day, and we still have three topics to go: the project management, the change management, and the service delivery. So our first topic for today is the project management, and I will introduce to you our first speaker. Pero bago yon, paalala po muli yung ating house rule para po tuloy-tuloy tayo at maintindihan po natin yung lahat ng di-discuss. Our resource speaker for today has 20 years of project, program, portfolio management, and IT service management experience. A founding president of IT Service Management Forum Philippines, and has worked extensively with ITSMF International, government agencies, members to help rise the competitiveness of the Philippine IT industry. A regular trainer and speaker with PMI Philippines, and is currently a part-time faculty at the Ateneo School of Science and Engineering. So, may I please welcome Mr. Pablo Yambot. Please give him a round of applause, please.
Morning, everyone. Thank you, Jason. So today I'll talk about, the next couple of hours, I'll talk about project management, give you an overview, the importance of project management, the frameworks that I would recommend you use, that DICT also teaches, that's also widely used in the Philippines, and as well in other countries. Okay, and just like Francis Uy and my friend Francis Pia, it's my way of giving back to all my scholarship. So I'm a proud member of a proud alumnus of UPIS, Philippine Science High School, UP, and I'm also a DOST scholar. Actually, I have a CHED grant. I think may taga-CHED ho dito. Salamat sa grant ninyo. So I'm also bringing back industry practices to the Ateneo as well as UP. Also, I'm a guest lecturer at the UP College of Engineering. Okay. And the other thing is I've been doing project management for the past 20 years. I also talked about project management with the Philippine Society of IT Educators. So ito yung outline natin for this morning. So start with the importance of project management. Then we'll cover frameworks, what are the available frameworks. And then ano yung unique challenges of IT projects in government. Okay. And last but not least, I'll try to tie it up together with some academic research that I found useful when I was in Procter & Gamble, what I call the theory of everything for IT. Okay, ties up service delivery, ties up TOGAF, enterprise architecture, project, program, portfolio management. Okay, request ko lang, if there are any questions, feel free to ask anytime. Kasi nga, that's how I prefer my lectures, and I teach IT project management at Ateneo, I teach ITIL in UP. So kung di kayo nagtatanong, either sobrang convincing ko or sobrang far out na lang topic ko. Okay? So please ask anytime anything's unclear. Alright, so we'll start with the importance of project management. But before then, okay, some examples of bad projects. Okay, so what's the landmark here? We'll start off with Sydney Opera House. Okay, so it's a famous landmark. Sino hong nakapunta na at nagkodakan na dito? Pumasok ko kayo, ma'am, o kodakan lang sa labas? Parang ako rin po, ma'am. Pero this is a famous landmark, Sydney. Daming tourists na draw, but it's actually also a good case study of how not to do projects. It's 10 years late, almost 15 times over budget, and yung Danish architect, Jan Ortson, if I pronounce his Danish name correctly, nagka-falling out with the Sydney local government. So persona non grata siya, never saw his completed opera house. Okay? And even worse, anong function ito? Sir, other than Kotakan, anong function ng Sydney Opera House? It's an opera house. It has also very bad acoustics. So even as an opera house, it has nowhere near world-class acoustics. Okay, so that's one government project in Australia, local government project. Next project is even more tragic. Everyone remember the Manila Film Center? Ngayon, ano na lang siya, di ba? Ano yung may venue dito? Yung amazing something. Pinag-field tripan na lang ng mga students. Actually, what's rushed, this is a case study of 24/7 construction. And in one of those days, November 17, up to 169 workers died. This was during Marcos era, so medyo hush-hush to, but investigators found at least 169 people buried inside the Manila Film Center. Okay? So start off with some really bad examples. I have also put some IT projects naman. So we started with 2 projects from government. One in Australia, Sydney, other in the Philippines. Sige, anyone know kwento ng ABN AMRO and Royal Bank of Scotland and Jollibee? And this is a architecture map, one that Francis Uy is talking about, starting with the business process. Both these case studies, dalawa lang tong case studies, ABN AMRO and Royal Bank of Scotland had a very big merger about a decade ago. And then Jollibee also had a very similar project. Any guess anong project was a big learning experience for both cases? Name Bataan? Hindi, so wala akong details on, sorry ho. Kasi nag-mechanical engineering ho ako pero hindi ako nag-delve into nuclear engineering. Kaya wala akong kwento ng Bataan. But meron akong comments if you want to talk offline on Bataan. So, any guess? Or Jollibee? Anong kwento ni Jollibee a few years ago? Si Chicken Sad, diba? Ano ini-implement ng system? SAP, ERP. Okay? Ganun rin so this is actually some of the business processes related to ERP. If I can read it correctly, it's make, ship, or develop and ship products. Okay, so the business architecture side. Okay, ang point nito is Jollibee tried to implement SAP, ERP, Enterprise Resource Plan. Dati meron na silang Oracle ERP. Okay, normally it takes 2 years at least. They tried to do it in 18 months. Okay, and make a long story short, the implementation failed. They lost hundreds of millions of pesos in lost sales, lost Chicken Joy sales. Some stores had to close down. All because they were rushing project for SAP implementation. Okay? ABN AMRO, Royal Bank of Scotland naman, some of the biggest banks in Europe, if not the world, had a big merger a decade ago. Yung IT systems nila were not properly integrated. So it cost them a lot of money. In the end, they went their own ways rin. And some observers think na their failed projects to integrate was one of the reasons why hindi successful yung acquisition. Okay? So I hope these cases stress the importance of good project management. We'll do dahil nag-start off si G ng quiz. Ito survey, global survey, across 50,000 projects a few years ago, relatively new. So may 3 classifications: the successful projects, challenge projects, and projects that failed completely. And I'm sure some of you, mga IT projects nyo na-implement, pero nagamit ba? So ito, pwedeng na-meet yung schedule, na-meet yung budget, pero hindi ginamit. And madaming cases rin yan. Okay, so ito, guess rin. It's also for me to get to know the audience a bit more. Ilang percent you think of projects across multiple industries globally were successful? Meeting schedule, meeting budget, meeting objectives. 19%, sabi ni Sir. Any other guess? 19%. Mukhang pessimistic tong mga I hope hindi naman yan experience yun sa agencies nyo. Any other guess? So 19%. Ang failed. Ay, sorry, ang successful. Sino pa? Any other guess? Yes, ma'am. Ilan yun, ma'am? 19, 29, 52. Less than 90. Okay, wala na. Okay. Mukhang ito yung one of the more pessimistic groups. But even globally, and project management as we know it today has been around since the time of the pyramids, 4000 BC. Modern project management, just like TOGAF, arose from a lot of US Department of Defense projects and the Apollo program. Even going back to World War II, a lot of the techniques. But even with decades, if not millennia of project management, 19% failed completely, and 52%, more than half, were significantly challenged. And having done projects for 2 decades, madami akong projects dito na feeling ko matatapos na trabaho ko or mawawalan na ako ng trabaho. Yung nag-update na ako ng resume habang ginagawa ko yung project. Okay? So ito, hindi rin to maginhawa. This is very stressful rin for the people involved. Okay? So, the sad news is for big projects, big complex projects like yung SAP ng Jollibee, mas malaki pa yung failure rate. Okay? Questions dito? Okay, so let's start with, so I hope that impresses or stresses yung importance of project management. We'll go through some formal definitions first. So starting with what is a project, and sometimes even this definition is not that well known. I'm putting both the PMI, Project Management Body of Knowledge, or PMBOK. This is the basis for ISO 21500 on the left, and PRINCE2, the British best practice for project management, on the right. And I'll talk about why I'm also putting PRINCE2 here. Okay? So I'll give you a minute to go through the definition. And what do you find the key difference or distinction between PMBOK on the left and the British PRINCE2 best practice framework on the right? Anyone? What are the main differences? Yes. Okay, so it talks about it's temporary, pareho silang temporary, right? This talks about creating a unique product, service, or result. So that's the straightforward definition. In this case, as Sir Raymond said, it's the organization that's undertaking the project rather than the whole undertaking. So much specific to. Okay, the other one, that's why I like showing this even if I subscribe to PMBOK, is it talks about delivering business products to the agreed business case. Okay, and in fact, the latest PMBOK that came out last September talks a lot more about business case, benefits, and benefits management. Okay, so now we'll look at project management definition. So PMBOK just says it's the application of knowledge, skills, tools, and techniques to project activities to meet project requirements. Okay, so this is your PMBOK definition. For those using PMBOK, it's very straightforward. And if you're taking up project management professional certification, this is what you will go through. Okay, for those who've looked at PRINCE2, it's also actually quite useful because now PRINCE2 highlights specific constraints, or what PMBOK calls knowledge areas. It looks at time, cost, quality, scope, again, benefits, as well as risk. And we'll talk about these areas later. Okay? And I was talking to Susan kanina. We'll talk about change management later. It's a very good complement to project management as well as service delivery. My recommendation in general, don't limit yourself to one framework or approach. Just look at the best of what you can reapply from each, okay? But we'll talk about the frameworks now in the next slide. Any questions on the definition? So everyone clear? Right? Okay, so this is the summary of frameworks. There are 3 here. ISO 21500, It's actually not a standard like ISO 9000. It's more of a practice standard or a starting reference. So in short, you don't get certified for ISO 21500. Kaya kung meron kayong supplier na nagsasabing ISO 21500 certified sila, pagtawanan nyo na lang or humor nyo na lang kasi walang ISO 21500 certified. And you have overall portfolio. Take note lang, there's also service portfolio that Pia will talk about this afternoon. Medyo unique, medyo different lang yung portfolio here. This is your portfolio of programs and projects, not the service portfolio. Okay? But it talks about strategic alignment, value realization, value management, so the benefits, the business case. Okay? And it looks at risk. Ano yung risk for this project? Ano yung overall risk? So it's also balancing yung investment. Sino yung nag-i-invest sa stock market or sa mga funds dito? Nahiya magtaas ng kamay. Yan, ma'am. Di ba sa portfolio, ano yung ginagawa niyo sa portfolio? What is the common advice ng mga portfolio ng mga fund managers or investment managers? Other than buy low, tama, para kumita? Yes, sir.
More than one investment.
Okay, more than one investment para
Hindi pagkatali ko sa akin.
Okay, very good. So tama, diversify. Diba? Don't put your eggs in one basket. Para kung matalo, kunyari, invest mo lahat sa stock market, sa PSEI fund, pag bumagsak yung stock exchange, di malaki lugi mo. So you diversify. Ganun rin sa portfolio at an organization or enterprise level. Okay, you want to diversify. You have investments or projects for low risk projects but low yield or low value, but you also have high value, high risk projects. Ganun rin, parang investments, diba? You diversify. Okay? So that's done at the portfolio level. Kaya may strategic and value management. Questions dito sa project, portfolio, and program? Okay? If none, we'll focus now on project management. Okay? So this is the 2013 5th edition ng Project Management Body of Knowledge. Yung handout nyo is actually also based in 2013, the 5th edition. Ito available tong reference na to pala sa fully booked for only 5,000 pesos. You could also download it. And one time I was in the Camp Aguinaldo, I found a copy sa kanilang library malapit sa HQ. HQ building. I forget the name of the library. Okay? Pero last year, 6th ed came out. So, ito na, medyo simplified, and I'll talk about the structure. Okay? So, this is based on 6th ed. Or ANSI PMI 99001-2017. Okay? So, there are 5 process groups: initiating, planning, executing, monitoring, controlling, and closing. Okay? And the reason why it's simplified versus this, I'll explain in a bit. Pero ito dati talagang in-highlight na iterative ang projects. Okay? But I'll explain bakit sinimplify na sa latest. Okay? Aside from the process groups, so the 5 process groups, you'll find them in the top columns rin dun sa handouts. Okay? So, di ba, you have the process groups on top. Initiating, planning, executing, monitoring, controlling. Okay. You also have 10 knowledge areas. So, starting from integration management, yung rows naman are what's called the the knowledge areas. So, you have scope. Actually, starting from the start, you have integration followed by scope. It was called time in 5th ed. Now it's called schedule. Hindi daw kasi nakokontrol ang time. But schedule you can control. Okay? Then you have cost, quality, communication, risk, resources, dati human resources, now generalized, not just staff, but also equipment and materials. And you have procurement and stakeholders. Okay? And all of that you need to integrate. So yun yung 10 knowledge areas to the PMBOK covers. So in this regard, mas detailed ang PMBOK sa Prince 2. Okay? So how do you organize this? And we'll cover scope, schedule, cost, risk later on. Not to say na hindi important yung iba, it's just we only have 2 hours to cover project management. Okay? But, so this is the structure, table 1-4 in PMBOK. Again, you have your process groups, followed by your knowledge areas. And in the latest PMBOK, there's about 48, kung tama ang bilang ko, 48 processes all in all. I think in the older versions, either 46 or 47. May nadagdag na, again, nasa slides nyo. Ang interesting na nadagdag is manage project knowledge. Okay? Meron pang nadagdag, it's implement risk response. Wala pa dyan. Okay? And nawala si close procurement. Any guess bakit nawala ang close procurement? Di ba importanteng ma-close ang procurement? Yes, sir. Ma'am.
It will be done by an audit.
Okay, very good. Nagbasa yata kayo, ma'am, or talagang alam nyo bakit? Okay, nag-recommend. PMI found out na it's really either buying, purchasing, procurement who closes out the procurement contracts. It's not the project team. Okay? So it's integrated into controlling procurements. Okay? So this is the latest. Again, apologize for the handouts na 5th ed, but you'll get this naman on in the USB. Okay? So that's the 48 processes of project management. Talk about some other important concepts like the life cycle. Okay? This is generic. We'll talk about IT, adaptive, agile later. Okay? But this is the generic project life cycle. So you have pre-project work before you start yung project. Ito yung mga ginagawa ng planning, ng strategy office, portfolio manager, or program manager kung meron. Okay? So, ano yung needs? Okay? And they create what's called a business case. Anong baka iba tawag sa gobyerno kasi hindi naman business ang ginagamit na term. Anong tinatawag niya sa CHED, ma'am? Instead of business case, ano yung need that triggers the project? Requirements lang in general. Hindi naman yun yung nagiging terms of reference. Requirements.
We have the requirements and then we design the terms of reference to identify.
Okay. Pero I think yung terms of reference actually is already part here. But sige, we'll explore that. Sir, kayo, sa PNP, anong tawag niyo sa business case? Ano yung summary ng bakit kailangan?
Sir, ang tawag namin dyan, project proposal, sir.
Project proposal, okay.
Trigger the funding of, allocation of resources, then gagawa na kami ng TOR po.
Okay, thank you, sir. My understanding, having worked with a few government agencies, the project proposal, terms of reference is really yung ano na nasa charter na. So ito, yung business case is really parang an executive summary. Ano yung need? Bakit kailangan? Ano yung stakeholder requirements na kailangan? High level. Ano yung strategy na kailangan ma-deliver? Okay? So ito, hindi pa to detalyado for a project. Ito lang yung driver, bakit kailangan. Answers, why do we need this? Yes, ma'am. Sige po. Hello. So yun, Malacanang Directive, yun na yung business case niya. Okay. Pero ideally, yung Malacanang Directive or whatever triggers your project is captured in a business case. It includes ano yung benefits. Ano yung benefits for the organization. I've gone through the DICT projects. Ito medyo clear naman. Ano yung benefits for the stakeholders, whether the LGU or other agencies. Okay? Inputs pa lang yan sa project charter. Okay? So, and then, yung charter is the one that actually authorizes the project team to go ahead. Authorizes the project manager to mobilize yung project team to go ahead with the project. So, ito talaga, pre-project work. Sa 6th ed, mas elaborated na to. Ito yung formal start ng project. Starting the project. Okay? In PMBOK, it's just called the project charter. In Prince 2, it's called the project initiation report. Okay? Ito pa lang yung, I forget what it's called sa iba pang agencies. Pero yun yung magti-trigger. So far, dito, ang team mo is just potentially the project manager and the sponsor. We'll talk about the different roles later in this talk. Okay, and these are generic phases. These are phase gates or control points. Ideally, meron kang go, no-go review. Check nung project sponsor, steering committee, is the project on track. Project on track to deliver benefits, is project on track to deliver yung produkto. Okay? Kung hindi, pwede kang pabalikin or pwedeng i-kill yung project. Pero that seldom happens in public, even in private. Okay? So ito yung phase gate or toll gates or go, no-go reviews. They signify the end of a project phase. Okay? So kunyari, sa IT project, merong additional phases, meron kang development, meron kang testing before you go live. Okay? Yun yung mga additional phases and gates. Questions dito? Okay, so project life cycle, I hope is clear. And I'll try to fit it with the process groups, knowledge areas. Okay, and this is very common. I've been teaching project management for more than 13 years. People try to map initiating, and not just trainees, but even some trainers, they map initiating with starting. They map planning with organizing, preparing. That's not the case. Okay, you actually do all of these, you can apply these processes per phase. Okay? Medyo madaling explain to sa engineering kasi meron kang conceptual engineering, may front-end engineering ka, detailed design engineering, detailed design. Okay? Before you go to construction. Just creating the conceptual engineering, dinadaanan mo rin all of these. Okay? Sa IT, mas gusto nating one-to-one correspondence, kaya mas namamap siyang ganon. Okay? But remember, for complex projects, just creating the terms of reference or the requirements could be a sub-project or its own significant phase. If it's more complex or complicated, that's where you use Agile. Okay? So, details you could get from the Agile Practice Guide. Okay? Which is, I'll refer to this in the references later on. But that's also from Project Management Institute. But this is compatible with whether you're using Kanban, Extreme Programming, Agile Scrum, the different Agile methods. Okay? Just a quick check. Sino nag-implement ng Agile project? Saang agency po kayo, ma'am? Indra. Okay. Business Intelligence Project. Anong platform po, ma'am, if I may ask? Microsoft Power BI and Microsoft. Sige. Okay, thank you, ma'am. Okay? So, in short, ito rin isa pang tip ko. If you go to some Agile vendors, first they will say Agile is the best. But there's actually some checklists to tell you na Agile may not be the best approach. You're not going to, just like you won't do Agile to create a new building, you won't probably use Agile to implement an ERP or a big HRIS that handles your payroll, your 201 files. Okay? Probably incremental or iterative might work. Okay? But for big enterprise platform solutions, Agile may not be the best. Some components, it might work, especially pag manageable. But the key here is customer feedback. If you're not going to get constant customer feedback, if they're not available for testing, hindi ito possible. Okay? Questions on Agile and the other life cycles? Okay? Good. Sige, now we'll talk about the business case. Mention the business case kanina. So what's in the business case? Okay? So what's in the business case? You have your project name and description. You have an executive summary. You have a problem or opportunity that the project is aiming to address. Okay? You have root cause analysis and alternatives, options analysis, comparison of these solutions or alternatives, what the author recommends, and how will this be implemented. Okay? Ito, sino nakapunta na dito? Anyone know what this is? Ako, hindi ko pa rin napuntahan pa lang, actually. Pero, same country, but not the actual building. Anyone? Any guess what this building is? Yes, sir.
Good guess, but it's not a theater and it's not Disney. And museum? Saan yung museum na to, sir? Some part in Europe is correct. It's actually not exactly. Hindi siya crumpled paper. Okay. It's actually nasa ibang kodigo ko, but this is actually postmodern something design. Merong specific architectural approach. I don't think it was described as a crumpled piece of paper, sir. Pero you're correct. It's a museum in Europe. This is the Guggenheim Museum in Bilbao. Okay? It's actually, if you look at it, interesting rin to, especially for people who've done some building projects. Merong rule of thumb yung mga building project managers. A straight line will cost 1 peso. One curb will cost 10 pesos. 2 curbs will cost 100 pesos. So it's actually going to be a very expensive museum. Okay? Pero this is actually commissioned by the city of Bilbao. Okay? Why do you think they wanted a museum? So background pala, Bilbao in the late 90s used to be a thriving port. Pero because of changes sa supply chain, na disuse na yung ports of Bilbao. So medyo nagdi-decay ang Bilbao city. What is Bilbao known for? Chorizo. Okay. It's not really known for tourism, diba? Chorizo maybe. Okay? So they wanted to get tourists to go to Bilbao. That was the objective ng Bilbao city government. Okay? So the objective for the project was to build the Guggenheim Museum for Modern Art. Okay? But the goals ng local government, city government of Bilbao, was really to revitalize the city because the ports were disused. Okay? To spur tourism, generate tax revenue from helping stimulate the restaurants, hotels, and inns. Okay? And there were actually, the building cost mga 40 million euros in the late 90s, which seems like a lot. But because it gets millions of visitors every year, nabawi na nila in a few years. Ang estimate is the value has been 500 million in tax revenue from the impact ng tourists that go to the Guggenheim Museum in Bilbao. Okay, so next time you go to Spain, try to drop by Bilbao. It's actually called the Bilbao effect, yung impact nitong museum sa buong buong city. Okay? So it really helped revitalize. Okay? So I hope the succeeding project examples will be a bit more upbeat compared to the start. Okay? So any questions on objectives, goals, and business case? So it's very important for you to be clear, if you're the project manager or the sponsor, na what the business case is. Because this also tells the organization what the benefits that your project is going to deliver. Okay? Okay, so now we'll go to projects. And I like this concept kasi it gives me an excuse to highlight my bike. But sino nagbibisikleta dito? Okay, ano yung saying sa bike? Na 3 things na hindi mo pwedeng makuha in one bike? Similar to this concept of constraints. Ano yung desirable traits in a bicycle? Okay, so cheap or affordable. Ano pa? Light and fast, durable. Okay? So those are the 3 typical characteristics. Ang sabi nga ng madami, you can't have a light, strong, cheap bike. You can only pick 2 of the 3. Okay? Ganun rin for most products, diba? You can pick fast, good, cheap, but maybe not all 3. Okay? So, common engineering constraint. Pero bakit a lot of the projects sa IT, you're being asked to deliver fast, good, and cheap in schedule? Okay? So, one thing to take note are really, just like there are engineering constraints, just like my constraints sa bike o sa kotse or sa bahay, you have to pick what are the real constraints. Talk about scope. This used to be called triple constraints. You have the scope, what your project is going to be delivering, what the cost is, okay? What the schedule or time is, and you have quality that you have to conform to, okay? A lot of times, Whether you're the sponsor or you're the project manager, parang walang flexibility dito. Okay? But in reality, or a good project manager will find out na hindi na realistic yung schedule, or the budget is too low, or the quality is too high for the what's the requirement. Okay? Or we're trying to do too much things, too much scope. Okay? So this is a very important concept. It's a competing constraints concept. Okay, we'll discuss these few items in scope, cost, schedule, but any questions on constraints? Okay? Okay, so let's start with scope. Scope is just really what work needs to be done to deliver the product or service with the specific features and functions. Okay? So this defines the deliverables, the requirements separated to must-have or critical and nice-to-have. Okay? Anong sites or offices or geographic areas is your project going to be delivered to? And which categories, service categories, which customers will it address? Okay? Types of users, what are the exclusions? Okay? IT ho or so engineering. Yeah, so this is very common in engineering, procurement, construction, even architectural engineering construction projects. IT, more and more, but I've been using WBS for a long time. And kung wala kayong WBS, paano naka-detail yung requirements nyo? Diba naka 1.0, 1.1, 1.1.1.1. Diba? That's how you organize the hierarchy. Di ba mas madaling i-break down into a WBS? It's very visual. Okay? Okay, so you go through multiple pages of requirements. Ito, you have a WBS that's defined in a WBS dictionary. Okay? And in fact, the lowest level dito, the work package, will be delivered via, paano magagawa to? Well, yung seat, bibilhin mo lang. Pero kunyari itong component test. Anong kailangan para ma-deliver ang test? Okay, you have activities which are part of your schedule. So in Timbuk, your WBS is really just for scope, what you're supposed to deliver. Your activities will be the ones how you'll deliver the work packages. Okay, which brings us to the next topic. Activities make up your schedule. Okay? So this is an example using a common tool called, I think, either Project Online or Microsoft Project. Understand, most of you use Project Libre or Open Project. Very similar naman, diba? You have the activities and you have a Gantt chart. Okay? So what I've seen is when people ask for a project plan, this is what a lot of people show. This is just one component of the project plan. This is just your schedule. It's a lot more. Per knowledge area, ideally, you should have a subsidiary or facilitating plan. So there's at least 10 there. And then you have scope baseline, you have schedule baseline, you have the detailed work breakdown structure. Okay? So what do you usually look for here? It's your critical path, and you monitor the critical path a lot more compared to the other activities. Okay? Next, we go to cost. And this is the famous, what do you call this curve? S-curve. So mga nag-projects na sa engineering or construction or OT, ito yung tinatrack nyo na cost over time. Okay? Concepts rin lang in project management, you have the budget. Okay? And you have a contingency reserve on top of the budget. Okay? What do you think the contingency reserve covers? Para saan yung contingency? Hindi maintenance, hindi operations, variations, partly, pero anong knowledge area? Tingnan nyo yung sheet. Tingnan nyo tong handout nyo. Saan naka-assign dapat ang contingency? And risk. Okay, very good. Your contingency covers specific risks. We'll talk risk briefly later. Okay, ang tip ko rin dito, don't ever call this buffer. Pag tinawag mong buffer yan, nasilip kayo ng finance nyo, goodbye na yung reserve nyo. Okay? Hindi ito buffer. If you did your risk identification, risk response properly, you need to plan your contingency based on the risk analysis and response. That's your contingency reserve. Okay? And you have management reserve controlled by either the program, by project management office, or by the sponsor. Okay? Ito typically hindi known ng project manager. Okay. Questions dito? So that's a short summary of costs. So ang key takeaway that I want you to have from this slide is make sure you have a contingency reserve. Okay? And hindi ito a percentage of the total budget. It's really identified risks, plan for risks. Okay? Yes, ma'am.
How do you handle the management reserve? Normally, when we have our project proposal to be approved by the management, we already provide, we already provide the cost, the project cost, but that is something to be approved by the management. Now, the management reserve, how do we handle them and how do we compute? Will it be part of the amount to be approved by the management?
Ma'am, you're asking as a steering committee member or as a project manager?
Well, I'm doing several roles. That's a reality in the government. You're multitasking. You wear several hats.
Okay, so project managers put together the budget. Ideally, not always the case. Even in private, especially some regulated industries, na-assign yung project manager, o ito pala yung budget nyo. Ay, sige sir, part related sa question ho?
Contingency about contingency reserve.
Sige, para baka masagot ko sabay.
Tatanong ko na din sa ibang agency. Kasi pagka naglagay ba tayo ng TOR, can we include contingency? But pagka binid po, yung contingency kung hindi nagamit, babalik ba sa atin or kasama sa project na? Kung hindi lang po nagamit, kunyari yung risk na hindi
Sige, so I'll address both. Ideally, if your contingency is not going to be needed, then you free it up. Other projects can use it.
Sir, kasi pagka gumawa kami ng TOR at nilagay kami ng budget, pagka binid na po yun, kasama na yung total cost. Baka yung iba, sir, na agency, hiwala yung contingency.
Sige, we'll discuss that kasi I think that's more parts of the procurement law, partly.
Yes.
Sige, so we'll try to tackle that in the break. Pero ideally, your contingency, bakit dapat mo ibalik? Bakit hindi mo dapat i-selfish it or pang-celebrate ng project team? Yeah, you could allocate it to other projects. Okay? So that's one. The other one, to ma'am's question, how do you plan the management reserve? Management reserve is really not visible to the project manager. It's visible to it's really with the sponsor or the program manager or portfolio manager or project management office. It's handled outside the project. The short reason why kailangan ng management reserve is mahirap humingi ng pera. Diba? Hingi ka ng more money from your sponsor. Kung na-exceed yung authority mo, ask from the steercom. Ganun rin yung management. Ayaw nilang humingi. Kung USEC yung sponsor nyo, ayaw rin niyang humingi ng pera sa secretary. Papaliwanag pa siya. Kaya may reserve rin yan. Ganun rin sa private. Meron kang reserve at upper levels of management that's allocated to one or more projects. So ito, the moment you can use your contingency reserve as long as it's within your authority. It's defined in the plan, defined in your risk management plan, defined in your integrated change control. Except for certain amounts na kailangan mo ng approval. Ang management reserve, ibig sabihin, hindi nyo na-cover yan. Okay? There's a term called, anyone ever heard the term known unknowns and unknown unknowns? This covers identified risks or known unknowns. Okay? This management reserve is really meant for unknown unknowns. So yung mga hindi na nakaka-capture sa risk identification. Okay? So in short, ma'am, it's really up to your sponsor. Kaya ako tinatanong kung sponsor ba kayo or project manager kayo or both. Okay? Other questions, Tita? Okay. Like I mentioned, I've been training project management for some time. A lot of you are lucky na may budget na kayo, hindi nyo na kailangan pag-isipan yon. Lucky and unlucky in that way. But I've been doing project budgets, madugo rin talaga ito. Kasi this ties up to the value. Overall, does it still make economic sense? Or do we stick with status quo? Okay, are the benefits worth the investment? Okay, and this is really a lot of effort. For big projects, you have cost engineers, dedicated cost engineers to help you with the estimate, to help you with budget. Cost engineers or finance. Okay? Questions? Other questions here? Sir, Ruben po ba? Nasagot ko po ba yung question nyo? Contingency? Pero mukhang yung as to the practice, sige, gusto nyo tanong ulit.
Hindi sir, total actual practice naman po to. Para din makita ng ibang agency. Sir, kasi pag naglaan kami ng project cost sa project proposal, at nilagyan namin ng TOR, pag binid na po yun, the total amount of the project, yun yung committed na magkakaroon ng notice ng project delivery na. Yung total cost na iti-turnover na dun sa nanalong bidder. So kung doon namin nilagay yung contingency reserve sa TOR, hawak po yun ng contractor na, which mean, how can we return it to the treasury para sa ibang project? Ewan ko baka ibang scenario po ng ibang government, ganun din po.
Sige, let me address that multiple ways and then I welcome other inputs. What do you outsource? Do you outsource the entire project or components?
Tatlong po.
It depends, di ba? Sige, in this example, sa bicycle, so bear with me, you could just pick a bike, di ba? So you buy. Or you could buy individual components and assemble it sa another bike. Kung ito, binili mo na lang. Okay? Your contingency is really outside dapat. So it should not be part of the TOR. Okay? Iba yung overall project budget dun sa budget nyo for this control account, for these work packages, for these deliverables. Kasi meron ka pang, and potentially the more complex projects, di ba? Meron kang isang vendor, isa pang vendor. Meron ka rin dapat components na within your control pa or that your team is going to be doing. Okay? Nasaan na si Sir Ruben? So, in short, wag niyong isama yung contingency not meant for that vendor, that work package, dun sa TOR. Kasi dapat control niyo yan eh. Kumbaga, ito yung budget niyo for the vendor.
Sir, pwede kayong bumalik din sa chart niyo po ng WBS. Sir, kasi kaya namin nilalagay na sa lahat kasi sir, wala nga kaming capability. Kumbaga, kaya namin bumili ng by parts. Ang problema, hindi din namin kaya mag-integrate.
Okay.
Tapos yung maintenance para ma-unload yung burden po sa government, sila na din mag-maintain on information security, on
So
parang buong project sir talaga.
Pati maintenance. So parang build,
Yes.
operate, transfer to.
Yes,
or build,
sir.
operate.
Opo. Usually nagkakaroon lang po ng timeline na ang maintenance is 1 to 3 years. After nun, turn over na entirely sa amin.
So BOT or BO.
Parang, sir, buong package po, kaya hindi po maiwasan na lahat na.
Okay. Pero anong problem kung binayad mo yung contingency sa vendor? Walang balikan na yan.
Walang balikan na po. Wala na, sir.
So, ito yung budget nyo dapat. Ito sa inyo na, ang contingency and management. Just like you don't put the management, kung kayo naman yung sponsor, hindi mo sasabihin sa project manager kung magkano to. Ganun rin sa inyo, di ba? Binid out nyo, in-award nyo, yung contingency, actually, remember, your vendor, kahit fixed bid, fixed price contract yan, or time and material, or whatever contract, may contingency rin siya. So in fact, part na yan ng bid nila.
Sir, kasi ang isang parang pong limitation ng government, yung ibang department naman po, example for us, hindi naman po sa amin dumadaan yung pondo. I mean, ang may hawak po ng funds from the controller, tapos diretso po yun i-award dun sa contractor. Sa amin po is yung management ng project implementation, which mean, hindi talaga dadaan sa amin yung pondo. Ang magbabayad po is ibang department. Opo. Kaya ganun, sir. Walang contingency fund may iwan sa amin. Walang management reserve. Lahat nasa diretso.
Sige. Actually, meron pa rin, madami, hindi lang naman sa government ho yan eh. Kahit sa private, madaming project managers binigyan na sila ng steercom or ng sponsor nila, ito yung budget mo. Ito yung gagamitin mo. Okay? But you go back to this. Kaya ba talaga ng budget? Remember, may scope na pinapagawa sa'yo. May schedule na hinihingi sa'yo. May budget na sinabi ito lang gagastusin mo. Sa totoo niyan, may reserve ba yung management? That's your management reserve. Kung hindi ka nagplano for risks, wala kang contingencies. And we'll talk about risks. Okay? So whether you're in public or private, you need to have a contingency. This is my main point dito. Okay? You need this.
Yes, sir. Last note, sir.
Yes.
Lesson learned po. Titingnan namin, sir, how can we adjust yung budgeting system po namin. Maglalagay talaga kami niyan, sir. Maglalagay po kami.
Okay, good. Kasi ang isa pa, and I've talked to some big major utilities na related to the venue, kahit sila yung mga project managers nila, dahil heavily regulated sila, set na yung budget. In fact, ito yung pina-approve up to the centavo, ito yung ina-award ng vendor. Wala rin silang contingency. And we'll talk about the importance of contingency. But that's what you have to look at. Institutionally, you need a contingency. Okay? But good question, sir. Thank you.
Sir, para lang excuse, pwedeng tapusin muna natin yung slides, then
Okay, malapit na tayo.
Q&A.
Sige. Okay.
Baka hindi natin matapos yung
Matapos natin yan. Bilis ako.
Sige,
Thank you.
sir.
Okay, sige. So, kung meron pang more detailed questions, ipapark ko. I'll be here naman the entire day, so you can approach me during the breaks. Okay, so risk, actually, what's the contingency for? It's really to plan for risks. Okay? So, some key concepts of risk management. It's the first activity is really identifying what can go wrong. Okay? But risks in project management is also about positive risks. Ano yung pwedeng mangyari that can really help your project. Okay? If you didn't plan for them, hindi mo rin ma-exploit or ma-utilize yon. But most cases, it's really what can go wrong, can impact the project. Okay? Next term is probability. Okay? What are the chances of this happening? Okay? So, ano yung probability? Anong value siya dapat sa risk management? Between what and what? Okay? It should be between 0 and 1 or 100%. Hindi equal to. Pag equal to 0, hindi siya risk, hindi siya mangyayari. Pag equal to 1, hindi na siya risk, constraint, or issue na siya. Okay, so it's always between 0 and 100%. Okay? And what's the impact? Impact could be peso terms, could be days, could be, in most cases, numeric rating, 1 to 5. Okay? Ito rin, pwedeng instead of a percentage, you just put a 1 to 5. 1, very low probability. 5, very high probability. Okay? So, mga bagong graduate or mga favorite na o nag-stat, ano ang produkto ng probability multiplied by impact? Natahimik kayo, no? Pinagtanong kayo ng math. Sa mga nagsusugal, or tumataya sa loto, no, our odds are probability. The chances of. Ano yung impact? Ito yung payout for a successful outcome or for that event. But what do you call that product? In mathematical terms, it's called expectation. Yeah. So, ano yung, madali lang ito i-put in gambling terms, and it's a key concept. Diba? Ano yung impact pag nanalo kayo ng jackpot sa loto? So, yung jackpot could be several hundreds millions. Diba? But what's the probability of you winning the jackpot? Also very, very small. Okay? So, taken together, kikita ba kayo kung tumataya kayo every week, 20 pesos or magkano na ba loto? Hindi, di ba? Kasi expectation niya, taken the jackpot and the probability is less than 20 pesos. So, you're actually losing every time. Of course, pag manalo ka, nakalimutan na lahat yon. But, yeah. So, yun yung the product of probability and impact. Saan kaya ginagamit yon? Bakit important yung product or the probability times impact or expectation? It's used in prioritization. Okay, we'll go to that later. Another term is risk trigger. Trigger is ano yung conditions that you need to monitor that will tell you that the event is happening or about to happen. Okay? Ito madali lang to for construction. Anong common risk sa construction? Pag typhoon season, you have very strong typhoons that can put a halt or damage your construction. Ano yung risk trigger ng severe storm? It's your weather forecasts. Diba? You have a 5-day forecast, 3-day more accurate forecast. Okay? So yun yung trigger. So for a risk of super typhoon damaging your construction site, the weather forecast is your risk trigger. A risk trigger would ideally be give you as much advance notice as possible. Okay? And for those prioritized risks, you have a countermeasure or risk response, and I'll show you some examples. Okay, so remember these two, probability and impact. So you've identified several risks. If you did a good job, you should come up with 100 plus in a sizable IT project. So you use this matrix, probability, impact. Ito pwedeng percentage. Di na risk yan. Issue na yan. Okay, so okay, thank you. Okay, so ito you could use probabilities or 1 to 5. Okay? And ano yung ibig sabihin nito? You focus your resources, you focus your analysis on the
If you did a good job here, you have funded some risk. Okay, you don't plan risk response for more. You don't plan risk contingency for more. Right? You're really risk get or very low impact to both. Okay? And ano yung common risk responses? For those prioritized risks, you want to avoid. You want to avoid that risk from occurring first place. Okay. Other approaches are transfer, mitigate. Mitigate the chances.
you mitigate the chances or the probability of the risk event occurring, or you mitigate or minimize the impact of that risk event on your project. Okay? Transfer means you transfer some of the risks, typically financial risk, to your vendor or insurer. Okay? And accept is really just means na you do nothing. Kasi low impact, low probability, or low expectation. Okay? Questions here? Okay? So how do you actually use this? This is your risk matrix. Then, with your risk register, the identified risks, your probability, your impact, the risk rating, which is just a product, what are the risk triggers, then you put risk response for the prioritized ones. Dun sa mga green, dito sa mga dito, some of them you just monitor. Okay? Some of these risk responses, and again, like any good list, action plan, this is your risk register, you have to have owners. Okay? Some of these risk responses will have costs. These will roll up to your contingency reserve. Okay? Pero for those items na you really have to buy, kunyari, meron kang backup na kailangan, gumastos ka na, yun, part na ng project budget nyo yun. Pero yung mga nakaabang na baka gagastusan, yun ang contingency reserve nyo. Okay? Clear to? It's a risk? Okay? And there are actually, sige, so I've covered scope, I've covered schedule, cost, and risk. So this is what you do in planning. But once you have that planned, you actually start implementing, delivering, creating. What do you do as a project manager? Okay, even if you've outsourced the work, you monitor and control. Okay, what do you monitor and control? It's all really the 10 knowledge areas from your scope, your schedule, your cost, quality requirements through inspection and audits, your resources. Are they delivering and are they coming the time you expect them? Remember, these are people, equipment, materials. You monitor communications with your stakeholders. You monitor the risks and you control procurement and stakeholder engagement. Okay? And the questions, what should you, there are actually two things that you'll really just be covering sa project team meetings. What are those two things that you should always discuss in project team meetings? Progress. Updates. Hindi ko pa naririnig. Issues. Very good. Issues that can impact any of your plans, that can put the overall success at risk. What's the second one that we just talked about in detail? You really just talk about issues and risks. All the updates that should really happen offline. You want to focus your team meetings, two things, issues and risks. Ideally, you get updated na sa project management information system nyo yung progress, yung to-do. Okay? Para hindi tumagal yung team meeting nyo ng more than 1 hour. Otherwise, laundry list discussion yan ng ano pang gagawin. Okay? Kasi ito actually madami to. You really just focus on the variance, the outages, the risks that are about to happen or that have become issues. Okay? And the other one is you also perform integrated change control. Okay? Ito, it's also very important. Kung wala kayong good change control for your project, you run the risk of scope creep or uncontrolled costs. Okay? Or your stakeholders will request something, your vendor nagmagandang loob, in-accommodate, tapos binil ka. Kaya kailangan nyo ng change control para ma-control all those unnecessary, unrequired changes. And especially scope creep. Okay? Questions dito? So that's what you do. You monitor and control. That's what the project manager, project team does. When you're closing or ending the project, these are some of the steps. Ensure that deliverables have been met. Check for any other issues, risks, post-startup items. Complete handover to operations, IT operations. Okay? This is very important. Sino gumagawa ng, for your project, sino gumagawa ng customer survey? Feedback sa management or sa officials. Usually, or end user. Sino gumagawa ng ano? Satisfaction survey? Sa private, medyo common to. Sa public, ginagamit nyo na to? Okay, good. Okay? Kasi kahit captive audience to, at least you know if you're really satisfying. In fact, more and more projects, customer satisfaction is becoming a key success measure. Okay? Kaya this is also very important. Ano pa importance ng satisfaction survey? What does it help? How does it help you as an organization? Na nag-satisfaction survey kayo? Okay, very good. As Sir said, it's helping you organizationally improve future projects. Alam mo na yung challenges for this project. Okay? And that's actually tied up with your lessons learned. Okay? Lessons learned you actually capture throughout the project, but you summarize, you archive, you make sure this is incorporated sa knowledge management store ng organization. Okay? And you have the final report. I'll show you an example of a final report. It's an executive summary of one of my projects' final report. Okay? So 1 page, actually detailed project report was several pages. Okay, but what do you see? So this is a short scorecard, success measures, and what I've delivered. And just like any lessons learned, meron kang what worked well, a short summary, what could have been done better, or the opportunities. Okay, and then you have a lot of visuals, charts, and so on. Okay, sinong gumagawa ng project report, final report, or closure report? Okay, bakit importante ito? Aside from what was mentioned, you capture lessons learned and recommendations.
may graphical representation pa rin sa gumawa. More or less not necessarily yung detailed representation. So, may graphical.
So may reference kayo. Yeah. So may reference kayo for future projects. Yes, sir.
Sir, may specific template ba to?
I can refer you to some templates. Some of them, I can show you some templates na free. Wala pa lang sulatan. Pero, projectmanagement.com, meron siya mga free templates that follow PMI guidelines. Pero yung free niya baka limited. If you attend training sa PMI or even sa DICT, I understand they'll share with you templates. Okay? Okay? Isa pang intent nito, yun, mga contractual liquidation kailangan talagang gawin, kundi mahabla pa kayo, diba? But ito, may isa pang intent. And this is not a very Filipino common trait. Kasi anong ginagawa ko dito, by summarizing, highlighting yung results, binubuhat ko yung aking bangko. Diba? Importante yan sa organization para makilala ka ng management. In fact, by doing this, it's a one-page summary, hindi siya yung usual 5-page detailed report. Executive summary. Yeah. Nakakuha pa ako ng award dito, global award in PNG because madaling i-circulate nung sponsor ko to. Okay? This was good for my team as well as my career, okay? In PNG. So it's important for you to also, especially if your project is successful, bida mo rin yung project mo. Bida mo rin yung team members mo. Okay? This is very helpful communicating to management. Rather than read a 5-page, 10-page closure report, come up with an executive summary. Very visual executive summary. Okay? Questions dito? Final report. So we went through some things na I hope you found useful sa project management. Now we'll look at what are the other resources that you could utilize. Any questions pala on closure? Okay? So we'll look at what are other resources available. But first, let's look at, and good to see some of you have attended training. There are some of you, especially for a lot of individuals na inassign ng organization, mag-take ka ng project management training or even get project management professional certified. Okay? So a project manager puts either personal time or company time or mix, prepares for the exam, passes the exam, project manager goes back to his or her organization, but finds it's a struggle. Kasi siya lang yung project manager na na-train dun sa organization. Okay? So, balik siya sa ad hoc dun sa dating gawa. Okay? The other one, sino ba ang responsible for overall success or failure? I'll say it's the project manager. Pero tinan mo yung nag-contribute and like na banggit rin, several of you mentioned na pinigay lang sa'yo yung budget. Okay? Yung plan was created by some strategic planning organization. Yung schedule. Okay? Changes is goes through your steering committee. Okay? Procurement was run through another technical or the bids and awards committee. Okay? With relatively small input. You hire people through personnel or HR. Okay, meron kang enterprise risk. Okay, madaming inputs coming from outside the team. But overall, pag nag-fail yan, project manager ang to blame. Okay? So, meron kang, kaya kung binigay na sa'yo lahat to, make sure you also push back and you do due diligence. Realistic ba talaga yan? Okay? And let's review again. What's the role of the project manager? Okay? Project manager is assigned by the organization, by the performing organization, to lead the team responsible to achieve the project objectives. We'll talk about what this team is later. Okay, ano ba yung competencies and skills that is required for a project manager? You have to have technical project management skills, so you know how to create a detailed definitive budget, a work breakdown structure, schedule network diagram. So these are the technical project management skills. Okay, but you also have to make sure you have economic, you know the economics, you know the benefits, you know the business case. Okay? And last but not least, you have to have leadership skills. And this goes beyond just the title or even below you have to lead same level, if not up your level. So there's a lot of soft skills required. Okay? So this is why even in private, a lot of people, a lot of good engineers, good developers, trinast into a project manager role. Feeling ng organization, magaling na developer to, bigyan natin ng project. Eh, kulang pala sa soft skills. Tapos hindi pa train. Tapos kulang sa understanding ng strategy and business benefits. Okay? So, hindi automatic na you have a good technical person that he or she will become a good project manager. Okay? First and foremost, we didn't tackle it, but you see dun sa knowledge areas, communication. Communication is very important, very, very important. Okay? Who do you communicate to? Your stakeholders. You need to engage your stakeholders a lot to have a successful project. Okay? And the project manager really has to integrate the different processes, the context, the complexity. Okay? So, anong ginagawa ng project manager? Leads and manages stakeholders and team members. Team members carry out the different processes. There are two sets of processes, project management processes, which I gave you an overview, but you also have the product development, the software engineering or engineering process. Okay? Project manager manages, integrates, and the output of the processes are your work components, your deliverables, the product, service, or result. Project manager still, of course, monitors, controls. Okay? All the while constrained by scope, schedule, and cost. Okay? So remember, if you're the project manager, you're ultimately responsible for success and failure. Kahit madami nang binigay sa inyo, push back if you think na unfair or unrealistic. Okay? And this is how you should look at the project. This is your project team in PIMBOK. In Prince 2, pati yung executive sponsor is part of the project. Okay? Talk about project management office in a short while. Okay? But take note, sponsor, the other term for sponsor is project owner. Okay? Project owner champions the project, provides the resources and funding for the project. Okay? So we talked about the project manager at some length. But take note, the other thing I want you to take away from this slide is we have two teams. Diba? One working the project management activities and processes, one working software engineering. Of course, for smaller teams, they can be combined. These are roles, distinct roles, but they can be combined in your team. Okay? Pero clear to, diba? For very big software engineering projects, you have dedicated solution architects, you have dedicated testers. Okay? You have database technical experts, and then you have schedulers, project management assistants, coordinators. Okay? Questions, Ida? Okay? So, having shown you this chart, it's also a global study conducted by Project Management Institute and Boston Consulting Group. What the major recent study, I think in the past 2-3 years. Any guess? What did they find as the top driver for project success? Anyone? Support from management. Good. Yes. What else? Who else? Leadership from? Actually, support from management, actively engaged sponsors is the top driver for project success. Okay? That's why if you're the project manager, if you're not leveraging your sponsor, pinapahirapan nyo lang sarili nyo. Okay? At the same time, you should have an actively engaged sponsor and the right sponsor to begin with. Okay? So, don't forget this. Kaya, kung kayo yung sponsor, huwag nyo naman sisihin lang yung project manager nyo. Remember, madaming beyond his or her control. Okay? Ano pa yung other elements to support your project manager? You have different roles. From project coordinator, sa program, meron ka rin program coordinator, program manager, program director, portfolio roles. PMO, we'll talk about PMO in a short while. But you also have planners, business analysts, risk analysts, estimators, quality control analysts, benefits analysts. Okay, you could also have contract specialists, vendor management office. So kung mag-isa ka lang na project manager, ask help from? Kung hindi ka binibigyan ng analyst and staff, who do you go to? You go to your sponsor. Okay? Hindi ka one-man team. Diba? You have to use resources available. Your sponsor would be the one to help you with the resources. This is a useful site. The URL is there. Again, it's the USB. You just sign up. You could click on each. That will give you a job description of each role here. Okay? You just need to register sa site. It's for free. Papadalan lang kayo ng email ng Axelos. Okay? Questions here or just importance of sponsor? If not, last few topics, we'll talk about project management office. But first, sino ang may project management office in his or her? So sa CHED, saan pa ba? Alam ko DICT, meron rin kayong PMO. Yung mga wala pang PMO, I hope after the end of this, you at least consider creating a PMO. Okay? These are the different project management office or PMO types. Some organizations, I've seen a utility company call it project monitoring office. That's a much more limited view. But you also have strategic PMOs. So ito yung level. You have enterprise-wide or corporate PMOs that staff the strategic projects. But at the other end, the smaller ones, they just look at providing training, internal consulting. They create the templates, guidelines. Okay? Ito yung standard methodology. So they might write up a project management manual for the organization. Okay? And you have controlling passive, provides visibility to top management, or controlling but also owning success and failure, all the way to staffing project managers. Okay, so different PMOs. And how actually an organization could have multiple. And again, one major utility related to this facility has a corporate PMO, has a networks PMO, has an IT PMO. So meron siyang strategic PMO, meron siyang tactical PMO. Meron ring, in some cases, project PMO. Talagang walang sinuport kundi one project. Okay? So ito rin yung tinitingnan. Strategic PMO looks at the portfolio, looks at risk, and iba yung dashboard niya. So in dashboard niya are all the projects. Okay? As opposed to a project na just looks at a specific individual project. Okay? So ito, you could do this in a tool like Microsoft's Project Portfolio Management. And ito, Power BI dashboards na lang to. Okay? Questions sa PMO? So ideally, your strategic PMO reports to the top executive of the organization. The tactical or business unit would, of course, report to their respective management. Okay? So that's the PMO. PMO is another big help for project managers and projects in general. Okay, and this again should be in your handouts, different levels of a PMO. You could have more than one in an organization. Like one client I had 10 different PMOs in their organization. Okay? Sa Procter & Gamble naman, ang PMO namin sa IT was really just this. Okay? Merong some organizations sa Procter & Gamble, meron kang enterprise PMO. Okay? So it could be differing levels, different organizations. Questions on PMO and the different roles supporting. Okay? If not, we'll go to the last few topics. First is, what are the specific challenges in government, as other than what Sir Ruben had already shared. Okay? So what's unique about government projects? You have clear accountability to the public. Okay? Related to that, you're utilizing public resources. Okay? So by default, your shareholders are the public at large, media would have, especially for your big strategic projects. And there are a lot of legal constraints for protection, and because a lot of our agencies are led by lawyers, even the more technical ones, that's why you have a lot of legal constraints as opposed to private sector. Okay? So this is really the reality. There's a reference that you may want to look at. It's the government extension to the PMBOK. Okay? It's the government extension to the project management body of knowledge, the PMI who. Okay? I'll summarize the references at the end. Okay? Software projects naman have their own unique set of challenges. Okay? As you've noticed, ang dami kong architecture, landmarks, buildings. Kasi madaling ma-identify. Diba? Unlike software, what's an ERP? best representation ng ERP, business process maps, diba? Because software is intangible and very malleable, very much dynamic and changing. Requirements are imprecise and very dynamic, kaya nag-start ang agile. Okay? And when you're developing something, you're also trying to solve a lot of problems that are in place. A lot of them are process problems, not so much something that software can solve by itself. Okay? The other one is testing, especially regression testing or non-negative impact testing. It's impractical to test all cases. Okay? There's just so many combinations. Okay? And as a lot of you have probably encountered, there's a lot of vendors, there's a lot of existing software that you need to consider, that you need to interface. Okay? I understand you covered data management, diba? Especially reference data is also very important in any enterprise software. Okay, and you talked about information security, the importance of information security. Okay, so some other references, especially for software engineering, are some ISO, IEEE references. Okay, sa PMI, merong ring software extension to the PMBOK that you can also download from the PMI website. And there's the Agile Practice Guide that talks about the few slides that I covered in much more level of detail. Okay, questions on government and software. So you have the best of both worlds, software projects challenges and government projects challenges. Okay. So one thing just to also look at, you should also look at best practice frameworks beyond project management, and I'll try to link it up. This is actually what Pia Hamoy will cover later this afternoon, ITIL. If you look at ITIL, latest version of ITIL, this is really, the project covers strategy all the way to cut over into operations. There's what's called early life support. That's where your project team is supporting the software or the system in the live environment, live production environment. Okay, and watch out for this more detailed discussion later this afternoon. Okay? I'll try to tie this up with my theory of everything IT, but first, let's look at some successful projects. Okay, so I hope you remember Bilbao, more for its sausages now. Another one is a successful government project. Okay, very good. It's the Candaba Viaduct. Anong distinction niya? Taga North ho ba kayo, sir? Kaya nadadaanan nito? Okay. Buti pala, ma-highlight ko na sa successful projects. Anong claim to fame ng Candaba Viaduct? It's the longest bridge in the Philippines. It's almost twice as long as the San Juanico Bridge. Okay? Pero yun lang, hindi dagat, kaya hindi ganun ka-obvious na bridge yan. Diba? Okay, and interestingly, merong NGCP grid that mukhang baka gamitin para sa broadband. Okay? But ano benefits ng San Juanico ng Candaba Viaduct? So, farm to market, ano pa? Anong naitulong ng Candaba? Tama ba? Candaba Viaduct. Faster routes to a lot of places in the north, diba? Kasi part to ng NLEX. Okay? So that's what I also want you to take away. Na you also always have to look at what is the benefit of your project and link it up with your strategic goals, objectives. Okay? Kahit your project is relatively low-key, tactical, linking it up to the benefits, to the strategy, is always very important. Especially for the sponsor, but even for the project managers and project team. Okay? So this one, successful project. Other one that I had a hand on or that I helped is the National Government Accounting System. Okay? So the Bureau of Treasury rolled this out a year ago. Okay? My company staffed the project manager. So it was really led by a colleague of mine. Okay, this was actually one of 3 big treasury projects. It was originally scheduled to be the last one to go live. Kaya ang daming plans on how to integrate with the other 2 systems. Okay, But the other two systems were subject to delays. In the end, ito yung nauna. So they're the ones who had to conform to the infrastructure interfaces requirements ng NGAS. Okay? And this was really successfully implemented because we had a very good project manager leading this project. Okay? So it's not enough to get a good software vendor. If you don't have a good project manager, your project could be wasted or miss out on its objectives. Okay? So let me tie up. Okay, let me tie up a lot of the things that you guys have covered here. So you've talked about enterprise architecture. We've talked about COBIT. It's a governance and management framework. Later, you'll talk about ITIL, IT Service Management. Okay, so project management we covered. It's really how you deliver tactical changes projects. Okay? You have portfolio and program na more strategic kasi it's made up of multiple projects. Okay? So itong levels na to are strategic level, so 1 year or longer, 1 to 10 years. Tactical, this is the tactical or management horizon or responsibility, and you have day-to-day operations. Okay, so this is from academic references or studies from the Netherlands. This is what's called the Strategic Alignment Model Enhanced. Okay, and ang challenge yan is you have all these frameworks. Okay, ang isang tip ko rin for most of you, you also have to look at a common framework or methodology or best practice to tie them all up. Kasi what do you do if you don't have a common framework? You have people na COVID trained using some terms na not necessarily consistent with project management or with program portfolio or with information security. Okay, that's the value of an underlying framework like ITIL that covers end-to-end from service strategy all the way to continual service improvement. And projects is how you deliver incremental changes. The other one, next topic is care of Susan will be importance of change management. There's a lot of challenges to change. Beyond the government, beyond the IT, ano yung isang pinaka-common with users that you encounter? What would your users rather do? Other than use the system that you just so painfully and struggle to deploy. They would rather use Excel or they would rather use their old legacy systems and they would complain about every single thing, right? That's why change management, organizational change, behavioral change is also very important. It's not covered here, but that's the importance of the next topic, okay? Especially for projects that are meant to be deployed enterprise organization-wide. Okay? But I hope you also have this useful chart or appreciation. And just to summarize, you have my recommendations for all of you. Develop your own methodology, basing out of PMBOK, but also looking at what makes sense from best practices like Prince2. Okay, yung guidance ko lang, PMBOK is really the one that is siguro 95% used by companies, vendors, organizations in the Philippines, as well as most of Asia. Okay? And you may look at requiring PMPs, since the terms of reference for your very big, strategic, important projects. Okay? So, at the very least, ito, baka isipin nyo self-serving dahil PMP ako. There are actually 1,200, 1,300 project management professionals certified in the Philippines. Not that many. You might think madami yan. And at the end of the day, it's the experience and the outcomes that you're aiming for. But at the very least, yung PMP, ibig sabihin, naintindihan niya yung PMBOK. Naintindihan niya yung dati 46, 47, ngayon 48 processes. Yung process groups, yung interactions. Okay? So that's the first. Develop your own IT project management methodology. And then you also look at forming a project management office. Remember, it's not just a project manager by himself or herself. You need a good executive sponsor or sponsor. You look at project management office, all these other roles that help projects. Okay? And there are organizations like the Open Group, like IT Service Management Forum, that can help you benchmark. So benchmark with other ASEAN, other Asia Pacific, other national, local government IT providers. Okay? And you look at governance like COBIT, but you also look at enterprise architecture to help define what, kasi when you take training sa project management, the intent is how to do projects right. Okay? But you look at portfolio, look at EA. They will answer what are the right projects to begin with. Kasi baka naman nga yung project nyo executed well, pero wala pala talagang strategic value or need. Okay? So that's the importance of these strategic frameworks, right? Okay? So, as promised, some references. Of course, PMBOK is the main reference. You have the Agile Practice Guide. This is also very important, especially if you're leading projects as a sponsor or as a steering committee member. Of course, ito, imported books lang, not that many available here. But you could get them from Amazon or get the ebooks. Ito, you could all, these three, 1, 2, 3, you can get from the PMI marketplace. The fifth ed is available sa fully booked. Medyo pricey nga lang dito. It's cheaper if you order abroad. Okay? And I think that's my cue, my static na. Pero tama-tama, we're wrapping up.
Hello.
So you have... Okay? So there's a lot of project templates. DICT also provides regular project management training. Okay? The other one, I just like to also invite you. I'm a member of PMI Philippines, Project Management Institute Philippines. We have our national symposium. I was EndNote speaker last year. Dr. Joel Marciano was EndNote speaker 2 years ago. So we have different speakers from all over the world, from different industries and fields. Last year, we also had a speaker from DPWH talking about the 8 trillion peso portfolio. Okay? So, just register. They extend yung early bird rate up to end of March. Okay? The PMI board is still deliberating on the government discount, if any. Okay? Normally, PMI offers a government discount kung in-house training. So, pero yung early bird rate ends in March 31. Okay? 2 days at the Shangri-La. Okay? So, I'd just like to close. My email rin pala. Kung meron kayong consulting or training need, or if you're taking up a degree, master's or PhD, and want to ask for advice, use my academic para at least ma-delineate ka. Okay? So, what am I showing in this picture? Diwata 1. Okay? So, Diwata 1 was a good example of a successful government project. It's actually a very complex project. It's actually a program. Right? There's multiple agencies helping. But in the end, what does the Diwata project and program deliver for the Filipinos? Any guess? What was the overriding need? Bakit na isip ng national government to have its own microsatellite program? It was actually Typhoon Haiyan. Typhoon Haiyan devastated, as you all know, a lot of parts of Tacloban, nearby towns. The need to survey the damage, wala pang Diwata dati. That was done by commercial satellites. That was very expensive for the Philippine government. Okay? So actually, Diwata provides surveying for disaster, as well as surveying for deforestation. So just remember na few years ago, very few Filipinos would have thought that we would have our own satellite program. Okay? But the government had decided, rightfully, that there's a lot of benefits to having our own satellites. Okay? So, with that, that ends my talk on project management. I hope you guys found some useful topics, takeaways.
Yes. We can still have 10 minutes for your answer. Yes. Rather for your question. Sorry. Sir Toots.
Paul?
project, nawala yung project sponsor.
Sorry, you are, sir.
Who's the basta?
Our tools. Okay, that's a very challenging question. So, first is, I assume you're a firm believer that the sponsor is very important to the success of the project. Okay, very good. So, if you have a steering committee, then ask the steering committee, sino yung de facto or OIC sponsor or new sponsor? I actually had a sponsor before na very senior in one of my global projects in Procter & Gamble. He had the authority, had the seniority, but he was too busy to be actively involved. Okay? So I wasn't getting the benefits from him as a sponsor. So parang nawala na rin yung sponsor ko. Fortunately for me, merong parts ng steering committee, or we call the project board, na very actively engaged and involved. So parang siya yung talagang naging de facto sponsor. Okay? So my advice to is to really ask for a sponsor that can replace your sponsor. Kasi without a sponsor, ang dami mong uphill political battles that you don't want to expend a lot of energy on. Okay? Did I answer the question? Okay? Good. Thank you. Any other questions? Okay? Kung wala kayong question now, just ask Pia later pag maalala nyo when she talks about ITIL, IT Service Management. And you could also ask the change management, Susan, how can you overcome a lot of the resistance by a lot of users, by a lot of organizations? Okay? All right, with that, thank you for your attention and participation.